Tomorrow morning, you wake up on your 42nd birthday. Nothing feels different. Your knees still hurt, a few gray hairs remain, and the wrinkles around your eyes are still there. But during the night, something impossible happened. Every cell in your body began repairing the damage of aging faster than that damage could accumulate. Your body will never become biologically older again. Your 8-year-old daughter will continue growing, while your 74-year-old mother slowly recovers some lost strength. But after reaching a healthy adult state, none of you will age. Birthdays will continue, and time will continue. You just will not become old. At first, humanity celebrates as if it has defeated death. Then, maternity wards remain full, cemeteries become quiet, and civilization discovers something terrifying. Almost everything in the modern world was built around the assumption that people eventually leave, and now they do not. Before we enter this new world, there is one important rule. Stopping aging does not make you immortal. You can still die in a crash, drown, burn, become infected, or be killed. Cancer would still require its own defenses. Your body can still heal, gain muscle, lose weight, and become sick. It simply no longer deteriorates because of age. We will also assume that this change affects every human, including everyone born in the future. Now let us watch what happens during the first 100 years. On day 1, the announcement begins in hospitals. Doctors notice that damaged DNA is being repaired. Exhausted stem cells become active again. Harmful inflammation fades, and old tissues slowly begin functioning like younger ones. Within hours, every news channel is reporting the same discovery. Human aging has stopped. People run into the streets. Strangers hug one another. Families call relatives they thought they were about to lose. An 80-year-old man looks at his hands and realizes these may be the oldest hands he will ever have. Religious leaders call it a miracle, while scientists call it impossible. Financial markets have no idea what to call it. Stocks connected to retirement homes collapse, and life insurance companies freeze new policies. Meanwhile, millions of people quietly ask the same question. If you no longer have only one lifetime, what are you supposed to do with it? During the first year, hospitals begin changing. Diseases caused by age decline dramatically. Fewer people suffer from fragile bones, failing organs, dementia, or bodies unable to repair themselves. But hospitals do not become empty. Accidents still happen, viruses still spread, and genetic disorders still exist. People also continue making terrible decisions involving ladders. Humanity has not defeated death. It has only removed death's most patient weapon. Then the economic problems begin. Retirement systems expected people to work, retire, and eventually die. But what happens when a 65-year-old may remain healthy for another 200 years? Governments cannot provide pensions forever, so retirement ages begin rising. But people refuse to spend centuries doing the same job. A new idea appears: temporary retirement. You might work for 20 years, rest for 5, return to university, and begin a different career. At 42, you were an accountant. At 70, a marine biologist. And at 95, a baker. Education is no longer completed only at the beginning of life. It becomes something people repeatedly return to. But not everyone welcomes this endless opportunity. Young workers discover that senior employees never leave. Promotions become rare, while important positions remain occupied for decades. The first generation raised without aging asks an uncomfortable question. How can the future arrive if the past refuses to move? By year 10, the population problem can no longer be ignored. More than 100 million babies are normally born around the world each year. Previously, deaths balanced part of that growth. Now, most deaths associated with aging have disappeared. Unless birth rates fall sharply, humanity can add roughly another billion people during the first decade. Cities begin expanding upward and downward. Apartments become smaller, and abandoned land becomes new settlements. Food production becomes more efficient, but water, energy, housing, and space become increasingly valuable. Having children is no longer only a personal decision. It becomes the most explosive political argument on Earth. Does every person have an unlimited right to create new life when existing people may never leave? Some countries reward families who delay having children. Others create waiting lists, reproductive taxes, or birth permits. Authoritarian governments impose strict limits. Protests erupt everywhere. Parents accuse governments of taking away a fundamental human right. People born into overcrowded cities accuse older generations of filling the world first. Your daughter is now 18. She asks whether she should ever have children. For the first time, you cannot give her an answer. After 25 years, families have become almost unrecognizable. Parents and adult children can look the same age. Someone who appears to be a sister may actually be a grandmother. Family trees no longer grow like trees, they grow like forests. Marriage also changes. Until death do us part once sounded romantic because a human lifetime had a natural ending. But would two people make the same promise if marriage could last 300 years? Some couples remain together. Others create 20-year or 50-year marriage contracts that can be renewed. Ending a relationship is no longer always treated as proof that it failed. Sometimes two people finish one life together and begin different lives apart. Inheritance nearly disappears. Children cannot wait for their parents' homes or businesses because their parents may own them for centuries. Wealth becomes one of the greatest dangers of the ageless world. A person who owns land, companies, or investments can accumulate power for hundreds of years. Someone born poor may spend centuries paying rent to the same person. The important divide is no longer between young and old. It is between those who already own the world and those who arrived after everything was taken. Governments respond with ownership limits, aggressive wealth taxes, and mandatory rotation of powerful positions. Power no longer expires naturally. 50 years after aging stops, civilization finally begins adapting. Cities become denser instead of spreading endlessly across nature. Buildings produce food, recycle water, and generate their own energy. Cultivated meat becomes common, solar cities rise in deserts, and artificial islands appear near crowded coasts. Humanity looks toward the moon and Mars, but space is not an easy escape. Sending millions of people away is far harder than launching a few heroic rockets. The population crisis does not vanish, it is managed. Lower birth rates, better technology, and an uncomfortable global agreement keep society functioning. Endless life cannot be combined with endless reproduction. The legal system changes too. A 100-year prison sentence once meant someone would die behind bars. Now it literally means sitting in a cell for 100 healthy years. Societies begin replacing extremely long sentences with rehabilitation and permanent restrictions. Politics becomes dangerous in a different way. A leader can remain influential for 80 years, and a billionaire can control a company for a century. A dictator no longer needs to prepare an heir. Term limits become essential. Without them, a nation may remain trapped under the same human beings forever. But long lives also create extraordinary possibilities. Scientists can work on one problem for a century. Engineers restoring an ecosystem can personally watch the forest return. People support projects lasting 70 years because they expect to see them completed. Humanity no longer has to borrow the future from its descendants. It can actually live inside that future. 100 years have passed. You are now 142. Your daughter is 108, and your mother is 174. All three of you still look like healthy adults. Your family gathers for your birthday in a city that did not exist when aging stopped. Several generations sit at the same table. Some were born before the change, while others have never seen anyone die from old age. To them, photographs of elderly faces look like images from another species. The world is larger, denser, and more controlled. People may wait decades before finding enough space or permission to have children. A normal person may complete 5 careers, live in 12 countries, and fall in love many times. History is no longer filled only with dead witnesses. People who remember events from a century ago are still alive, voting, and arguing about what happened. This preserves knowledge, but it also preserves grudges, prejudices, and ancient conflicts. Humanity has gained more time, but it has not automatically gained more wisdom. And there is one final truth that nobody can escape. Ageless humans are still not immortal. Every drive, flight, infection, and dangerous choice carries a small risk. A small risk, repeated across hundreds or thousands of years, eventually becomes a large one. One day, an accident may still end your life. The difference is that death no longer waits inside your cells. It must find you somewhere else. Stopping aging could become humanity's greatest medical victory. It could end enormous suffering, allow centuries of discovery, and give us time to repair old mistakes. But it would also force us to redesign almost every part of civilization. Work, marriage, parenthood, wealth, justice, politics, and even the meaning of a human life would change. The first 100 years without aging would not really be a story about defeating death. It would be a story about billions of people finally receiving the one thing they always wanted: more time. And then discovering that time was never the only problem. So the real question is not whether humans should stop aging. The real question is what kind of world would be worthy of people who may live in it for centuries.